Welcome to B Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find your flow on the water and in life. I'm your host, Brad Burden. Join me for conversations with the athletes, adventurers, and paddlers who are all seeking the flow. B Flow Sessions is proudly sponsored by Pucon Kayak Retreat. Experience world-class whitewater, expert instruction, and the adventure of a lifetime in Pucon, Chile. Save 10% on your trip with the promo code BFLOW10. We are also proudly sponsored by Dagger Kayaks. Team-tested, paddler-proven designs for every river and every paddler. And thanks to our partners, Sawyer Paddles, Stolquist, and Level 6 for keeping us in the flow. Welcome to the next episode of B Flow Sessions. I'm your host, Brad Burden. And in this episode, I am joined, in whitewater kayaking, there are icons, there are legends, there are great paddlers, but very few people encompass all of those things. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a Hall of Famer in the whitewater world, Risa Shimoda. Risa, thanks for being on B Flow Sessions.
My pleasure, Brad. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so Risa has been in the paddling world for well over 40 years. She has, been active in American Whitewater, ACA. She was very active in Perception and kind of led the way early on in like marketing and sales with Perception. And not to mention, she was just an incredible paddler in her own right. But incredible squirt boater. I remember seeing her squirt boating back in the 90s, and just the things she could do in a squirt boat was unbelievable. But even more important than her own personal paddling is what she has meant to the whitewater community. So again, what an honor and a privilege to have you on B Flow Sessions. Thanks for being here.
Ooh, thank you. You can be my agent, Brad, any day.
So Risa, we ask everybody, how did you find your flow in kayaking?
I was introduced to this through someone that I worked with. I was at my first job in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was a fellow named Howard Watrous, and he was a recent widower. He's like 55 or something like that, and his office. I was in his office with like 6 people, and he was desperate to find a girlfriend, and it wasn't me, but he offered because I was at my first job. I knew my roommate, but nobody else in town in Cincinnati, and he drug me around to church with him, and we went to square dancing for singles, and then we went to parents without partners, and then we went to just meeting. He would take me to the farmers market and just to maybe meet people. But then he both talked about kayaking, where he would go kayaking. It was a big active Sierra club, and where he would talk about where they were going on Friday, all day long. And then on Monday, he would talk about where he had been all weekend. And then when the winter time came, he took me to a pool session, Hamilton County pool session, and I just loved the people. It was like instant karma. I just absolutely loved the people, partly because nobody talked about work. My first evening was freezing cold, like they were untying boats, they were all covered with snow, and having a great time, went out for beer and pizza, and they were so nice. So,
Yeah.
it only, after a couple of weeks, I was borrowing boats. I bought boats that didn't fit me, I didn't care, and gear, and I just started going all the time. There was a canoe school that the Sierra Club offered every year, where there'd be dozens and dozens of people going to Morgan's Canoe Livery out, I think it was still in Ohio, maybe not the Little Miami River, somewhere nearby, and just again, so many nice people, and many people, everyone offered to help me go, so I did, and any given weekend, there was at least a mini bus kind of van full of people going, and I think it was not on purpose at all, but there was always at least 50% women. Just so happened there was a family, John Wood and his wife, they had 2 daughters and then 2 sons, and then a couple other gals. They just were always a bunch. So I just thought it was normal for there to be mostly women paddling in the group. After a year or two, it wasn't the case any longer.
Sure.
But so the environment was perfect. Everyone was nice, and I was, and people were very patient and nice teaching me.
And approximately what years were this?
This was 79, 80.
Okay. And then take us through the 80s then, of kind of how you then started to get more serious into whitewater, and then joining, the ranks of being a professional and working in kayak companies and for whitewater organizations, and take us all the way through that curve.
Yeah, I just, well, I guess I got good because I went all the time. I just went, I was not married, and I just would work, and then Friday afternoon I would just hop in a van with these guys, and so I just got to experience lots of rivers, and they were really careful. Again, the group was an incredible support group, but they would not let me go on stuff that was harder than I knew. But I tell this a lot because it's pretty wild. There's a year when the Ocoee flume was broken, a couple of years maybe. It ran all the time. So I went 50 weekends in a row to the Ocoee for Christmas
Wow.
and New Year's. Because somebody was going. I didn't even go by myself. So I just got super familiar. I knew that thing, every inch of it. I swam most of it, but I knew every inch of it. And I just became familiar with the Cheat and and Castleman and places nearby in Ohio. And so I think some of it was just had so many miles under my belt within a couple of years. Then I moved for work. I moved to New Jersey and met a bunch of people who were much better than I through the KCC&Y, that club. And they included Charlie Walbridge, who I dated. He would for a little while. And another fellow named Pete Skinner, who's from Albany, New York. And I just went a ton of places with them. And with like Charlie and his crew, I would go like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. And with Pete, I would go up to the Moose and the Hudson that way. And then started doing Western trips. Then after a couple years for work, moved to Atlanta and spent a lot of time in the South. So I was kind of accumulating little pods of friends who would go on trips. So
Sure.
every year I did 1 or 2 vacations in Idaho, California, Colorado, rinse and repeat. And was lucky to always go with people who were better than me. So I got to go on good rivers. So that's sort of the general story. 84, I moved down to Atlanta. That was when I went to Atlanta, but lived there in North Carolina. And then through that, some of it was, I was moving for work. And then kind of was, then I met Forrest Calloway, Woody, people know him, and he lived north of Charlotte, and we got married, and I couldn't find a job there, so I was doing lots of different jobs, but they included being a tech rep for Patagonia, and I started selling squirt boats with New Wave. So lots of people will tell me that they have one of my boats, but they really don't have one of my boats. They have boats that we ordered, because we would order some that were custom, but many that were kind of just that we thought would fit people. So we were ordering a dozen boats at a time. So there are probably 30 or 40 boats that have my name in them.
Oh, wow.
Old-time boats, like jets, pro jets, T-birds, like those type models from Jim Snyder. And so I was kind of winging it for a while, but then I was the first executive director of American Whitewater.
Yep.
And my salary was $5,000 that year. Big time. But that's when we got a little bit more serious about raising money for conservation and access.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of started. And also during that early 90s, late 80s, early 90s time period, the Golly Festival started getting more serious about the having vendors, because that's a big part of their revenue now.
Right.
So that got started during that time period. Then we also started. It was kind of AW, and then I started working for Perception. Also, it's partly a perception thing. We started the National Organization of Whitewater Rodeos.
Right.
So there were a number of rodeos or freestyle events around the country. We just um, tried to coordinate the dates, and then eventually had like 4 regions and then like a finals. That the coolest final was on the Ocoee,
Yep.
where there was a slalom, I think team trials on the upper Ocoee. It was after the Olympics, and we had a freestyle or a rodeo. So we had all these people doing stuff in every drop on the upper Ocoee. It was super fun. It's like one of the more cool integrated, and we had some wild water trials going on at the same time.
Yep.
So it was like everybody was just on the river and trying to stay out of each other's way, but there were lots of people, lots of kids, lots of families, and so that was the thing. And I think at the height there were 40 whitewater 40 freestyle events altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I started competing in '99 and competed at the Ocoee Rodeo several times, and still to this day, I mean, I drove by it just the other day. When I drive by that huge parking lot going, leading from when it starts there all the way up through the Olympic section, and I went as a spectator to the '96 Olympics, and I don't think about that parking lot being the Olympics. I think about that parking lot being where everybody was parked and where all the vendors were for the Ocoee Rodeo.
Yeah, super fun. Remember particularly there were a lot of like pets and little kids, because there was one little place that Rick McLaughlin and John Anderson made for like a kiddie pool.
Oh,
So
cool.
you could put your little kid there and just not worry about them. They were pretty safe. So that was probably it. Maybe my favorite year.
Yeah,
Because so many people in the parking lot was a total scene and fun, and I
it
think
was.
one neat aspect of that was that there were people who were slalom racers or freestyle paddlers who saw the other people and
Mm,
realized how good they were.
yeah.
They never usually see them. They're never usually around that type of race. So that was really, really gratifying and fun. Um, and then, so after that, I started working for, during that time period, I was working for Perception. And when it was just on its own, Bill Masters was still the sole owner. And when I got there in the early 90s, there may be 40, 50 people there. And when I
Wow.
left, there were almost 400.
Wow.
Had grown so much because they started making, you name it, kind of boats. They started making the recreational
Yep.
kayaks, the sit inside, and then even the sit on tops. So I was there during a very, very interesting growth period of hardshell kayaking.
Hmm.
Super exciting and fun, and I owe a lot to Bill Masters, who's a very eclectic, unusual, brilliant guy, but he gave me opportunity to do a lot. And
And what were some of your roles at Perception during that time?
marketing, sales, customer service, product development. Everything except making stuff in the factory. I
Yeah.
worked with, like, I wasn't doing CAD designing like that, but that was my department. Bob McDonough was the main designer, who was a
Hmm.
brilliant guy, and he moved to go work for, like, not Logan Assistants, Old Town Johnson
Mm.
after that, but he was, so like the Pirouette S, and Corsica, of course, like in that time frame, Arc and Spark.
And then Shane Benedict
Before,
kind of took over from him.
yes, Shane came in and then took over for sure, and then when he left, right. Yeah, so that was super fun, and Woody had always a big, like he had one year he was driving across country and he saw a limousine, the limousine in a used car lot, brought that thing
Yep.
home. So he was driving around this old ancient white limousine just for fun, to events. Had a big rig, and it was, I don't know if it was a heyday, but it was certainly a time when there's a lot of growth and a lot of activity among new boats, lots of new models. That was the time period. It was the first time, like think Pirouette S maybe one of the first times there were multiple sizes of a boat. It's
Yeah.
obvious now, kind of up for a given thing, but like Pirouette S, I remember we did the Pirouette and Bob, it's a beautiful boat, but when I sat in it, like the cockpit came up to like here. I said, this is not good. So Pirouette S, much lower profile. So that kind of innovation, I guess it seems kind of old, but it was big at the time, I guess.
Sure.
So lots of growth during that time period. New companies, lots of models.
Well, let me ask you this question because you've seen the sport for well over 40 years. What in order to, and maybe it doesn't need to be again. Maybe it was just a time capsule, that was just frozen in that period. But what things would need to align for there to be a more organized freestyle tour again? For boat designs to be, I mean, the boat designs that are out there are incredible, but companies don't come out with one or two, three new designs every year. They might come out with a design and it lasts 4 or 5 years, and there's not really the amount of sponsored teams out on the freestyle circuit. What things would need to align in order for that to happen again, or is that just, like I said, a bygone era?
I think in a way it's bygone, but for a couple reasons. One is at the time all the new boats there was like zero new boats for a long period of time. I mean, it was like the Dancer. I mean, this is like
Right.
a really long time ago. So the short boats and the innovative designs from Dagger, from Corin, from Perception, there were only a few. So when there are only a few in the universe of new boats, it's easy for everybody to see them because there's only a few.
Sure.
Now, and if you wanted to try one of those new boats, you tried one of those. Now there are so many, it's very difficult to have the focus on the new
Mm.
boat. And that even the largest manufacturer relies on like ambassadors and presence to advertise. No one's doing mass marketing of boats.
Right.
No one's got the money to do that. So it's hard for someone to just take over. you know,
Right.
so it's hard for a model or a company to have momentum and the financial clout to just do that. And then besides that, there are many more models. There are fewer people doing outdoor sports. I just saw participation 2025. Participation among 17 to 24, 24 to 35 is kind of like going,
Mm.
for a variety of reasons. So you don't have a
Sure.
huge influx of baby boomers who are just coming of age.
Oh, yeah.
And then the final thing,
I
at the time people started kayaking, they would go kayaking, and they would go kayaking. Now most people have a couple of sports that they do.
Yeah.
Kayaks on the car, and there's a bike on the car too.
Yeah. And
Um,
then they switch it out for a snowboard in the wintertime.
right,
Hmm.
right. So
I think I've seen a lot of Gen Xers though getting back into the sport that maybe gotten out uh, to raise a family and are now getting back. I'm seeing a lot of gray-haired guys out on the Nantahala and the Coe these days. That's a good
yes,
thing.
yes. And I mentioned I was down in Silva. I saw that type person on the Tuckasegee. That's almost
Yes.
all there were last weekend.
Right.
Uh, yeah, and on that same participation study, that I don't know about like 55-year-olds, but the oldest block of people, there's an uptick, and I think it's
Hmm.
either what you've just said, people coming back after their kids are growing, or trying to keep fit.
Yep.
Trying to not worry about falling or keeling over.
Hmm.
So using their preferred sport to keep them in good shape. That's a motivation for me now.
And in a way, that's a very important demographic because they have a little bit more disposable income to go into the kayak shop and buy new gear. But yeah, it's alarming that we see a decline in the youth because that would be the future. It's easy to look at the immediate returns right now with that older demographic, but
Right,
got to have those kids doing it too.
right. Just one thing on could there be a renewal of what was, besides the things I mentioned. It might, if there was someone that's just started up.
Mm.
If there were one or two people who said, let's do a circuit. Let's get, because there are events. There's Colorado tour. There
Well,
are.
and the Paddle South tour that
Yes.
was new this spring, I got to give the Hargroves and Emily
Yeah.
Jackson and Nick Troutman, like they basically was just like, we need to do this, and got people to host different events, and I went to some of them, and it took me back to those late 90s, early 2000s, but
Yes.
without any of the pressure of like, oh, I got to finish high to get my sponsors. It was just, I mean, it was so much fun, and the
Yeah.
community behind it was great.
I agree and give them tons of credit for that. And I think as like that's a I don't know if it's a great model because those guys are the guys in Columbus now have such great experience. But Montgomery
Hmm.
coming along, the Whitewater Park proliferation I think will help.
I think so
North,
too.
Woka in Oklahoma, Siloam Springs, and so there's like a few groups of places, either facilities or rivers, where you could do little regional circuits. Um, New England, maybe. There's some.
Yeah, the new wave in New Hampshire. And
Mhm.
let's eddy out and take a quick break. Do you need a break from the cold of a North American winter? Then let's head south to the best whitewater on earth at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com to learn more about how you can take the ultimate paddling adventure in the heart of Chile. Now let's peel out and head downstream. I didn't mean to take us off on a tangent with like diving into how to save the sport, but I mean, you have the best perception of this, no pun intended, of anybody that I could possibly interview. Let me ask one more question about this
Mhm.
topic, and then we'll get back into your personal journey.
Mhm.
Um, I see, and maybe I'm wishing this into existence, but I see kind of a um, rejuvenation in play boating, and I think some of it's because of the new features that you just mentioned. But it was almost like playboating died through the 20, the teens, where everybody was just in creek boats, and now I see a lot more people, whether it's in full slices or in playboats, again, and it looks like playboating's kind of having a rejuvenation. Do you see that?
Well, it's just sort of changed. I think going from when play boating was possible only in super short boats was
Mm-hmm.
a little bit too much for some people who didn't want to have to
Yes.
learn, what the boats need in order for you to do what the boats can do. But as the half slice type boats came back, the River Runner,
Yeah.
the fact that there was a River Runner boat that had to be named that was kind of funny. But it's like the normal boats came back, and
Right.
those have a little more performance. And I have to tell you, when I see people like videos of friends who have learned how to squirt and like start squirting, it it's a riot to me, you know,
Yes.
because it kind of looks like what people were giggling over in 1979.
Right.
Not 79, like 89.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So but whatever, because it is fun. Start squirting is super fun, and it's an odd skill to learn. The opposite
It's
mean thing.
right. It's counterintuitive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I think it's just the river runners really helped, and then boat manufacturers going to want to continue to capture what they think would appeal to people, either as something that is a brand new boat for a first boat person, or a second boat for a
Yeah.
two boat person.
I just last summer I was at Hellhole once, and I was one of like, and it was like it was a weekend because I just came down for the weekend, and I was one of like three people. But this past like 2 weekends ago, I was there and I counted 35 people at Hellhole, and I ran into Richard Oldenquist, and I heard somebody say, "Is this 1997?" And I was like, maybe I did fall into a time warp, and we've like been transported back.
It was. That is
Uh,
crazy.
but it was like, I was looking around going, where did all these people come from? And at first, you get kind of annoyed because you want to surf, but then I was like, this is fantastic because this means there's more people kayaking.
That's really great. It's like Saturday afternoon, sort of kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it was actually a Friday now that I think of it.
Wow.
I was doing a little guest teaching for NOC, and we had a kids camp there, and we had to actually like take the kids downstream because it was too crowded. And like I said, at first I was a little annoyed because I wanted the kids to have their chance to surf, but I was like, wow, this is like fighting for eddy service back in the late '90s, early 2000s all over again. It was really cool to see.
That's really good. One thing I don't have a sense for down there, but I was reminded when I was on the tuck last weekend how important the schools are,
Yes.
to introduce kids. And where I am in D.C., the schools that are here are so great.
Yeah.
They're introducing lots of kids to camping with paddling being part of it. Introducing them to just jumping in, swimming, jumping off a raft at the beginning, but teaching them a kayak. So they're a component of it. I don't know how much they are in terms of bringing more people in.
Hmm.
I think there's more people working hard at it. Like where I am,
Yes.
there are a lot of people who have learned to be teachers, who are instructors. I
Yes.
became an instructor for the first time 2 years ago, after all this time.
I'm sure you've instructed many of folk,
I
just not in
have,
a
I have,
capacity, a
I
formal
have, but
capacity.
now I'm official. I'm an L4 water instructor. But,
There you go.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. But I think there's more, if you call that infrastructure.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking for people to teach. I want to do it, and I can do it more confidently. I have to do it to keep up my certificate. There's,
Right.
there's more of that, I think. So it's just different. If the numbers are bigger, that's great.
Well, let's get back to your own
Okay,
personal paddling now, and I
right.
want you to think about. I call this perfect flow, and you've had probably hundreds upon hundreds of days that you would count as perfect flow, but can you think of one that sticks out that's like, man, I look back over my incredible career kayaking, this is one of those days where goes on the wall as a memory.
Um, there, there are a few that I. There are a few for different reasons. I think maybe and I think all of them. I look back on them as being significant, but probably one of those few are the going down the Green River Gorge for the first time, the old
Mm.
Green River where it's out there. So
Yep.
Bob McDonough, Psycho, Dave Simpson, and Woody and I. People had been down part of it, but they hadn't done all the drops.
Mm.
And just because it was one thing that was great was Psycho could see everything, a lot of things that we couldn't see. That was really helpful because he could stand up, and
Oh yeah.
so really it was unbelievable. He had 2 feet more visibility than we did, and so that was a big accomplishment. Um,
Were you the first female then to descend it?
yeah, we were the first anything before
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
That's I mean that's something to hang on the wall for sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
probably have a lot of those though, right?
Um, I guess that's my only first, I think. I have
Okay.
seconds. My
Yeah.
one second was going down the North Fork Pay in '85. It
Wow.
was not the and then the other one was going down the below Niagara Falls, the gorge,
Yep.
down that section. Carrie Ashton, who was a teacher at Swanee, she went down before me.
Okay.
Yeah, but those are I wouldn't call them stunts, but they were big events, if you will.
Sure.
I think that my favorite river and probably a big day and would be a good day on this river is the Watauga Gorge. I just love it
Yeah.
because it's so many places are blind, but if you sort of know where to go, they're not hard. They're like must
Right.
moves, right? But it's beautiful, and I just love going down someplace where you can't see at all, but you know where to go, and then you do it. As long as someone has scouted, there's not junk, different.
Right. Sure. Some hidden log.
Yeah. Um, so those are, I think, my big and my favorite.
Well, the opposite of perfect flow I call flood, and I don't mean a good flood, but this would be a bad personal flood, kind of one of those epic adventure tales that at the time may have been a little scary, but it's one that you get back to the takeout and everybody can have a good laugh, and it's a great story to tell around the campfire years down the road. Can you think of one like that?
Oh, the main one. Uh, I've only been really injured on one run on the West Fork of the Tuckasegee, but that wasn't so much fun at the end of the day. It dislocated shoulder. But I think
Yeah, that's not fun.
no, that wasn't fun. I think what falls into that category is when I first started kayaking from Cincinnati, and when I was going to the Ocoee a lot, I was in a slipper, a Phoenix slipper, and I think I had a couple of little pieces of foam for outfitting, like hardly any, like
Right.
so not surprising. I couldn't roll it very well, so I swam a lot, and there was one time that drop. It's in the first part of the river where I can't remember the name. It's shoaly, and then it's just a bunch of small, teeny ledges. And I fell over one, swam, and I was in there, and people just kept running over me. People were running over me for like an hour. And no one could figure out. It was where they would take a picture. There was a photo person right there. So I just, got run over for an hour and got a little beaten up. But that was funny later. That was really funny later.
Yeah.
No, not like a huge expedition or anything like that, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, I want to shift now to flow advice. And I want you to think about a new paddler, somebody who's getting into the sport, regardless of age. What advice would you give them? I mean, you're an instructor now, so.
I would, like if you were just taking a class, I would, and you were like done with your class, I would find opportunities to go, whether it's with a friend or where the instructor advises, to go again, and to not wait another year before you take another class. So it's all about kind of immersion and staying in the mindset of learning so you don't forget. Because a lot of what you learn is sort of muscle memory learning. So we're really lucky here. So when we teach, people are allowed to go to this little, it's just a calm place where there's some gates on the inside of an island, and you're allowed to go anytime, and there's gears available there. So you get to
Cool.
practice. You get to practice. You get to try a few boats over the course of a few days practicing. And I would say just get back in a boat as soon as you can, as soon as you liked it. And then during that process, you probably will meet one or two people who can become your little cohort.
Yeah.
And so finding a couple buddies who go. And then if you're lucky, go as often as you can with someone who's better than you. That's when you're super lucky. And if they're nice and they're better than you, they will help you learn.
Right.
And not just techniques like strokes, but best practice on how to run the shuttle. I remember like the whole clunky thing had me confused for a day. I mean, like all that.
Front left tire spring, right?
Yeah, right. So that's what I would say. And if you have any questions, ask about it. Do not go into your own head. That also. But it's sort of easier for people who are a little bit more outgoing. Hopefully people have a good enough experience, or they establish a good enough relationship with their teacher that they can ask them. They're worried or confused, or something really bugged them. They couldn't figure out why something didn't feel right. They can ask them. Because when I've been teaching, sometimes it takes a couple of classes or a couple of encounters to get a quiet person to say what they're really thinking.
Sure.
Some people have no problem. They'll just get it out. But that would be my advice. Go as often as you can, or find a system that allows you to do that, and then paddle with people who are better.
This next question is geared for those gray-haired people that we mentioned that you saw on the Tuck and I see on the Nana Hill and the Ocoee. And I normally ask people, what advice would you have for someone coming back to the sport? But I want to ask you a little differently, because I'm sure you've had times in your life when you paddled more than others. But what advice would you have for longevity in the sport for people, regardless of their age, and they want to continue paddling well into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s? I even saw Jimmy Holcomb a couple weeks ago, and he's well in his 70s, still paddling. He was just on the Gale last fall. So, to continue paddling into your upper years, what advice would you have for people to maintain longevity in the sport?
Paddle.
Love it.
It's kind of simple. And with that comes what is important to have fun. So strength,
Yep.
I would say lifting your boat's more fun than lifting weights,
Okay.
right? And other things that keep your body sort of healthy. But paddling
Yep.
is really the best thing to do. If you can't all the time, I mean, you know, being fit in general is good.
Yep.
All the things that keep you healthy. I'm pretty lucky. I don't have to. I'm healthy. So,
Hmm.
um, and then keep in touch with friends who there are some people that are my best paddling friends who I don't see often. So I have to make a
Yeah.
little bit of an effort because they're not here or they moved or have to make a little bit of an effort to paddle with people that are not my buddies. Um, but they become your new friends that you go with.
Sure.
You have to extend yourself a little bit. 'Cause a lot of
Right.
people quit when their BFF moves away.
Right.
They just stop.
The next question is our sponsored segment by Pucon Kayak Retreat. And so this is the Pucon Kayak Retreat Pro Flow Hot Tip. And if you were advising a female who wanted to be involved in advocacy or organization like you have been for so many years within Whitewater, what advice would you have for them?
Um, I would say do what's meaningful for you.
Mm,
Don't do it because it's meaningful for somebody else. Like, you know, um, there's plenty there's plenty of need to go around, and every river can use some help. Sometimes it's not easy to find out what to do. In general, people say everybody can do something. It's easy to say, maybe not that easy to, like if you're on the tuck and you want to be an advocate, where do you go? I mean, you have to
sure.
ask. So you have to extend yourself a little bit to find out. But if you hear of a project that's not near you, like not on your local river, and you're interested in it, guaranteed somebody's having a Zoom meeting about some legislation or some potential dam or some project. So, I would just say get involved in something that is of interest to you for whatever reason. It might be like on a river where you grew up or something like that.
Right.
Where there's a personal connection because whatever the work is going to take a long time, is usually not, is kind of sometimes boring and is sometimes a pain. Like there's a meeting right when you have something else going on. If you make a commitment, you have to stick with the commitment. So the only way to get past not wanting to miss a meeting or is to prioritize it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be something that you love or think is really important.
Well, now the current. What's now the most current thing going on in your life, and what endeavors do you have going on?
Well, we just finished. So I'm what am I? The president or chair, something like that, of the World River Center, and the main project is the International Whitewater Hall of Fame. And we just inducted 5 amazing people at the Canadian Canoe Museum in Peterborough, Vermont. If anybody's going to the Ottawa, this is like between Ontario and Ottawa. It's 200,000 square feet, 650 boats. Each one
Wow.
is labeled. Each one has a story. They're on racks. They
Oh.
are amazing, from birch bark and you name it, many years ago built to modern boats. Unbelievable. But we inducted Donna Klodek, slalom racer in the United States. Danielle Woodward, slalom racer from the 90s, who first Australian to win the Olympic medal. A guy named Roger Parsons, who bought some land nearby. They have 100 acres of this whitewater preserve. It's for whitewater paddlers to go practice.
Oh, wow.
Class 4 drop, and then they have it to themselves. Hugh Kennard, who is from New Zealand, and he has made it so that in New Zealand you can't build a dam on the main stem of any river. You can
Mm.
build dams on tributaries. But so that's him, like he's amazing. And then George was the founder of Oars, the company.
Sure.
So Clavey went. His son came and received his award. So there were different kinds of accomplishments, and so we inducted them. So that's a big thing, and we'll do it again next year, and have the induction like at the end of next year. And I'm going up to the Deerfield next week to celebrate a renewed license in the Five Brook section, one of the sections there, with the people who did the relicensing in the 80s. So Bruce Wessels, who was the owner of Zor, Pete Skinner from Albany, and Tom Christopher from Massachusetts. So some people there to kind of honor their contribution up there. And then for work, I'm going to go on a Lador Canyon trip.
Oh, cool.
In a couple months. So, have good stuff going on.
Sounds amazing. Well, I've been to a lot of events where you've been kind of in charge, and I've seen you paddle, but I don't know that we've ever run any rapids together officially. But would you like to run some virtual rapids with me now?
Sure.
Okay, so this is the rapid fire section. I'm going to throw out a topic of kayaking, and you got to give me your Mount Rushmore rapid fire.
Rapid. Does it have to be like one word?
No, it could be like, because you're going to give me a list, so you're going to give me like your top 3 to 5 of each category.
Okay.
All right, so the first category is rivers of all time.
North Fork Payette, Middle Fork Salmon, Watauga, I already told you, Potomac, and Ocoee.
Okay. Kayak designs of all time.
Mark IV, Han, Dancer, Jet, and Fun.
Okay. Kayakers of all time.
Carrie Ashton, Howard Watrous, he's the guy he told me. He's not famous.
Nice. That's okay.
Yeah, but he, my best friend Anita Swanson, because she's been my life. And then my other girlfriend, Judy Morrison, because she was my maid of honor, and she's my second most favorite person. And I think Bunny Johns.
Oh, nice. I love that you mentioned Bunny Johns. That's a great pull. Now this next rapid, we're going to run blind. And so what this means is I'm going to throw out the topic, and I'm going to give you the answers, but you've got to rank them. So you're going to give, like if it's number 1, it's your favorite of all time of this topic. 5th would be your 5th favorite. You're going to rank these 1 through 5. But once you use one, you can't use it again, and you don't know what's coming next. That's what makes the rapid blind. Okay?
Okay.
And the topic is states in the United States to paddle in. Number 1, Maryland. Where would you rank that 1 through 5?
I would rank that 1.
1. Okay, it's your favorite. It's your home. I get it. North Carolina. Where would you put that?
I think that might be 2.
Okay. Idaho.
4.
Colorado.
5.
Washington.
State.
Yes.
6.
6 below. Oh, you're gonna those Pacific Northwest people are gonna be mad at you.
No, I thought you were gonna say California. I was gonna make that.
Well, yeah. So California would be 3.
Yeah, the priorities through accessibility.
Okay, sure.
You can Potomac class 1 through 5 every day of the year.
Good point.
every day. So
Good point.
it's more that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Now, your final flow. Hopefully, this happens a long, long, long time from now, but the river goddess has come down and they said, maybe more than anybody who's ever put on a spray skirt, you've had a bigger impact and a bigger career. But this is your last time, Risa. But the good news is, because of everything that you've done and accomplished, I'm going to give you a gift. And your gift is you get to pick the river, you get to pick your boat, and you get to pick your crew. Where would you be? What boat would you be in? And who would you be with?
I would go to the Watauga.
Mm.
And I would go with those two gals that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I would invite Woody to go with me.
Nice. I love it.
I would scare him to death probably, but
Woody's a good time, so that, yeah.
he's a good time.
Is there any river that you've never done that is on your bucket list that you feel like you got to get on?
No, well, there are some rivers that are really long that I don't think I'll get on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a Tatsunchini or something like that, you know, or some super remote ones. But I've been on many that I've been lucky enough to go on. So, that might sound boring. I don't really have.
That's okay. No, I wanted your answer.
No, if I have opportunity to go on a new one, I will, for sure.
Yeah.
There are many that I haven't been on.
Well, Risa, this has been just an absolute blast to have you on. And for those of you out there listening, there's so much that we have in Whitewater, from access to rivers that are now available to events, the history of the sport, development within the sport, marketing, kind of things that people have stolen, that we all can trace back and thank Risa for. I mean, truly an icon in our sport, and I was so lucky to have you on B-Flow Sessions, and just so thankful for everything that you've done and continue to do for whitewater kayaking and whitewater rivers. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Brad, thank you very, very much for inviting me. This is really fun, and I hope people get a little bit of a smile from listening.
Absolutely. I had a big smile the whole time talking to you. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of B-Flow Sessions. If you enjoyed today's session, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review, and share the episode with your paddling crew. It helps the show and the paddling community grow. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Pucon Kayak Retreat, and save 10% on your trip to Chile with promo code BFLOW10. And thanks again to Dagger Kayaks, plus our partners Sawyer Paddles, Stolquist, and Level 6 for making this podcast possible. You can also follow B-Flow Sessions on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for instructional videos, behind-the-scenes content, and more conversations from the whitewater world. Until next time, keep paddling and finding your flow.